Amara was a black
When did
waitress
this even
at
happen,
Sonny's
bro?
Diner, and she had no idea that on one fateful day, she would make a decision which involved standing up for Steph Curry. No one could have prepared her for what happened next.
I ain't gonna lie, bro.
The evening shift at Sonny's Diner was always predictable for Amara, a 29-year-old waitress with a warm smile and a knack for making every customer feel special. Located in a quiet part of the small town of Berkeley in San Francisco, Sonny's was a refuge for the older locals who came in to enjoy pie and coffee while chatting about days gone by.
Hopefully she got some money
on their favorite sport, basketball. For Amara, the diner was more than a job. It was a comfort zone, a place where she knew everyone by name. But tonight, that familiar rhythm was about to change. The bell above the door jingled, signaling a new customer. Amara glanced up casually, expecting to see a regular, but her heart skipped a beat when she saw who walked in. It was Steph Curry, the Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors, one of the most celebrated athletes in the world. Steph was well known in the city of San Francisco, given that it was the home of the Golden State Warriors.
Facts.
For a moment, Amara froze, unable to believe her eyes.
She said the light-skinned
Steph was dressed casually, wearing a hoodie and sneakers, and looked like he was trying to stay under the radar. But even in his simple and demure attire, his aura filled the entire room. The older patrons at the counter turned to look, whispering among themselves. Some craned their necks, trying to confirm if it was really him. Amara's pulse quickened. She'd seen him dominate on the court countless times, but she never imagined he'd walk into her quiet little diner.
Bro? You could tell that was AI
Amara is popularly known for her warm smile and attentive service. Having worked at the Sonny's Diner for 3 years, memorizing the orders and quirks of the diners who frequented the place, the fact that Steph Curry, a celebrity, came to their dainty diner was a big deal for her and the other regulars because they were huge fans of his. Gathering her composure, she approached his table with her usual friendly demeanor. "Good evening. What can I get for you tonight?" Steph smiled warmly, a kindness in his eyes that immediately put her at ease. "Just a coffee black, and maybe a slice of whatever pie you've got." "Coming right up," Amara said, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. She returned to the counter, aware of the buzz his presence was causing. The regulars were murmuring, some smiling in awe, others shaking their heads. As she placed the coffee and pie in front of him, she tried to act normal. "Here you go. Enjoy." "Thanks," Steph said, offering her another smile before turning his gaze out the window. Amara couldn't help but watch him for a moment. There was something unassuming about him. Despite his fame, he seemed lost in thought, maybe even a little tired, but not everyone shared her admiration. Earl, one of the older regulars, and a huge fan of the Sacramento Kings, who were the big-time rivals of the Golden State Warriors, was infamous for his bluntness and, at times, overly critical opinions.
Here we go.
Amara was thrilled to serve someone of Curry's stature. She admired him, not just for his incredible talent on the court, but for his philanthropic work off it. Yet, as Earl stood and approached Curry's table, her excitement quickly turned to unease. "Excuse me," Earl began, his gruff voice cutting through the diner chatter. "Aren't you that basketball guy, Steph Curry?" Curry looked up, smiling politely. "Yes, that's me." Earl crossed his arms, his face twisted with skepticism. "I've been reading about you," he said. "You make millions. But what do you actually do for folks who need it? Heard your
bro, people like this need to be hitting up, bro. I ain't gonna speak on it, but let's continue.
Stingy with all that cash. The accusation hung heavy in the air. Amara, who was clearing plates at the next table, froze. She glanced at Curry, whose calm demeanor had no discomfort. "I try to give back where I can," Curry replied evenly. "I've supported education programs, built basketball courts for kids, and helped fund charities.
Yeah.
Earl scoffed. Sounds like a PR stunt to me. You big shot.
Bro, see, but I'm sorry for pausing it, bro, but this shit like that pissed me off, bro. Like,
Only care about your image. Murmurs spread across the diner, some customers
Bro.
nodding in agreement.
I was
Amara
mad.
felt a surge of indignation.
Bro.
Earl's words were unfair and misinformed, and she couldn't stand by while someone she respected was berated. Summoning her courage, she stepped forward. "Earl," she said, her voice steady despite the nerves bubbling inside. "That's not true. Steph Curry has done more than most people could dream of. He's given scholarships to students who couldn't afford college, donated to disaster relief efforts,
She started talking her. I like it.
supported mental health programs." The room fell silent as all eyes turned to her. Earl's brow furrowed. "And you believe all that? How do you know he's not just doing it for the headlines? Because actions speak louder than
What
words."
the fuck Steph Curry need headlines for, bro? He hoops. He hoops. He get the headlines by hooping. He don't need bro.
Amara countered. "I've read about the kids whose lives have changed because of his foundation. He doesn't have to do any of that, but he does because he cares." Curry looked at her, surprise and gratitude flickering across his face.
I love her.
Amara continued, her voice gaining strength. "We live in a world where
I love
people
her.
with the means don't always step up. But when someone like Steph does, it's not fair to tear them
Don't
down."
play with the light skin,
The
man.
diner buzzed with whispers again, some patrons appearing moved by her defense,
Do not play with
while
the light
others
skin, man.
remained skeptical. Earl huffed and returned to his seat, muttering under his breath. But the damage was done. Amara noticed Mr. Sullivan, the diner's owner, stepping out from the kitchen, his expression dark. "Amara," he said sharply, motioning her over.
Oh, hell.
She approached, her
Damn, we
heart
fired on the
sinking.
spot?
"What were you thinking?"
Not on the
he
spot.
asked in a low voice. "You don't argue with customers, especially not regulars like Earl." "I wasn't arguing," she replied, her voice trembling. "I was standing up for someone who didn't deserve to be treated that way." Mr. Sullivan shook his head. "This is a business, not a debate club.
Old ass
Earl
white
and
man.
the other regulars are the backbone of this place. If they're upset, we lose their loyalty.
And the
I
backbone
can't
of
have
the
that.
play,
I think it's
backbone.
best if you find another job."
Damn,
Amara-
fired on the spot. Damn. Bro,
Felt the words like a punch to the gut. "You're firing me for defending someone? I'll give you a few days to transition," Mr. Sullivan said, his tone final. Her vision blurred as tears welled up, but she held her head high, refusing to break in front of him. She glanced at Curry, who had
Yo.
risen and was watching the exchange, a look of regret on his face. "I'm sorry," Curry said quietly as she passed by, gathering her things. "Thank you for standing up for me. You didn't have to do that, but it meant a lot." Amara nodded, managing.
I would have said, man, throw me 100 bands then since it meant the line. What are you talking about?
Smile.
What are we talking about?
"You're welcome." Amara woke up the next morning, feeling like her world was crumbling down. Her usual enthusiasm for the day was replaced by a deep sense of loss. She had always loved working at Sonny's Diner, loved the camaraderie with the regulars, and the comforting routine of brewing coffee and serving pancakes. But now, the sting of humiliation from the previous night felt fresh.
Damn.
Fired for standing up for someone she admired, Amara couldn't shake the disbelief that Mr. Sullivan had let her go so easily. Nor could she forget the way the regulars had looked at her, their silent judgment cutting deeper than Earl's words.
Damn,
Amara
they was
woke
hating,
up the
man.
next morning, feeling a heaviness in her chest that made it hard to breathe.
Why people be
The events of
hating
the
on celebrities so bad, though? Like, I don't get it. Like, bro.
previous night played over and over in her mind like a cruel loop. Sonny's Diner had been her safe space for years,
Put that bitch
a
shut
place
down.
of routine, laughter, and familiarity. It was more than a job, it was a second home. Yet, in just a few moments, she'd lost it all. All because she couldn't stand to see a fellow human like her being bullied, and in this case, It was the famous athlete Steph Curry. Although she thought doing the right thing mattered, now she wasn't so sure because it seemed like the world didn't care about what is right or wrong. Still, life didn't stop. Rent was due, and bills needed to be paid. Reluctantly, Amara prepared to head back to the diner one last time to collect her final paycheck. The thought of stepping into that space, facing those same people, made her stomach churn with anxiety. She could already hear the whispers, see the disapproving glances, but she had no choice. She needed the money to keep herself afloat until she found another job. The morning air was crisp as she walked through the quiet streets of San Francisco. A golden glow from the rising sun bathed the city, but Amara couldn't appreciate it. Her heart was heavy, her thoughts clouded. She resolved to keep her head high, no matter what awaited her. She had nothing to be ashamed of, she reminded herself. She had spoken the truth, even when it was hard.
Different in them two pics.
As she approached the diner, something unusual caught her eye. Parked right outside was a sleek black SUV, its polished exterior gleaming in the sunlight. The vehicle looked completely out of place against the backdrop of Sunny's modest, slightly weathered facade. Amara hesitated, confused, before pushing open the diner door. Inside, the usual hum of conversation was absent. Instead, an uneasy silence filled the room. Amara's eyes widened as they landed on Steph Curry, seated casually in one of the booths. Despite his relaxed posture, he exuded an air of quiet confidence that commanded attention. His simple attire, jeans, a sweatshirt, and a baseball cap, did nothing to mask his star power. Behind the counter, Mr. Sullivan stood frozen, his face a mixture of nerves and
got on his
confusion.
head.
The regulars sat unusually subdued, their eyes flicking between Steph and Amara. The tension in the room was palpable. "Amara," Steph said, standing as she entered. His voice was warm, calm, and inviting. "Can we talk?" Amara's heart pounded as she nodded and crossed the room.
Damn.
She could feel the weight of every pair of eyes on her. But for once, she didn't care. Following Steph to the booth, she slid into the seat across from him, trying to keep her composure despite her racing thoughts. "I couldn't stop thinking about what happened last night," Steph
What the
began,
fuck? Why?
his tone calm.
Why it sound like
but
some freaky
sincere.
shit?
"You stood up for me when you didn't have to, and I respect that more than I can say." Amara blinked, unsure of how to respond. "I just thought you deserved someone to stand up for you," she said quietly, her voice almost trembling. "And that's exactly why I'm here," Steph continued, leaning forward slightly. "What you did took courage. It showed me the kind of person you are, someone who stands up for what's right, even when it's hard. That's rare, and it's something I deeply admire." Amara tilted her head, confusion mingling with disbelief. "I don't understand," she said. "Why are you here?" Steph smiled, his expression kind
What happened, bro?
but determined. "My foundation is expanding. We're launching new programs to support underprivileged kids, improve access to education, and create opportunities for people who need a second chance. We need people who are passionate about making a difference. People like you." Amara's breath caught in her throat. "Are you serious?" she asked,
Yo,
her voice barely above a
got-
whisper. "Completely," Steph said without hesitation. "I want you to join the team. It's not waiting tables, but it's a chance to be part of something bigger, to use your voice and your heart to help others." For a moment, Amara sat in stunned silence. The weight of his words, the sheer improbability of this offer, left her speechless. Tears welled up in her eyes as the reality began to sink in. She had lost her job, but in its place, she was being offered an opportunity beyond anything she'd ever imagined. "I don't know what to say," she whispered finally, her voice thick with emotion. "Say yes," Steph said, flashing a grin that made her laugh through her tears. Amara nodded, her resolve finally breaking into a wide, tearful smile. Yes, absolutely yes. Steph reached across the
Damn, she
table
got her new
and shook
job,
her hand,
probably paid
sealing
way
the deal.
better.
Around them, the diner remained
probably,
eerily
definitely
quiet.
way better.
The regulars, who had once judged her so harshly, now sat stunned into silence. Amara couldn't help but glance at Earl, whose expression
Punk
was a
ass
mix
nigga.
of disbelief
Hope your diner
and
shut
what
down.
looked like
I hope your
begrudging
diner
respect.
shut down, my guy.
Mr. Sullivan, meanwhile, stood rigid behind the counter, his jaw clenched tightly as he processed what was unfolding.
What are you talking
His
about?
face betrayed a hint of guilt, but Amara didn't dwell on it.
What are you talking
Her
about?
focus was on the future. As Steph rose to leave, he turned back to Amara. I'll have someone from my team reach out to you today to get things started. Thank you again for what you did. It meant more than you know. The bell above the door chimed as he walked out, the sound echoing through the diner like the closing of one chapter and the start of another. Amara sat for a moment, trying to steady her breathing. Then she stood, her resolve firm, and walked to the counter to collect her paycheck. Mr. Sullivan handed it to her with guilt written all over his face.
You're
He
mad.
then grudgingly told her, although I feel you shouldn't have done what you did yesterday night, but I'm sorry for how badly I might have treated you.
Yeah.
Amara
Yeah.
met his gaze steadily. You taught me a valuable lesson, she replied simply. Sometimes, standing up for what's right is worth more than staying quiet
To keep a
it
job.
With that,
Talk that
she
talk,
turned
young lady.
and stepped into the sunlight,
Huh? Huh? Talk that talk
her
then.
heart light with hope.
He
In the
hurt.
weeks that followed, Amara joined Steph Curry's foundation and threw herself into work that felt meaningful and fulfilling. She traveled to communities in need, helped organize educational programs, and met countless individuals whose lives were transformed by their efforts. For the first time, she felt like her voice and actions truly mattered. Looking back, she realized that losing her job at Sonny's Diner wasn't the end she had feared.
No.
It was the beginning of a life
hope Sonny Diner
filled
shut
with
down.
purpose. That one chance encounter with Steph Curry had changed everything.
That's crazy.
Proving that sometimes standing up for what's right opens doors to a brighter future. Do you think Amara's
Bro, I ain't
actions
gonna lie.
were born out of admiration for Steph?
I think she's just probably a nice girl in itself. Like, she probably just one of them people that's just nice. She's just caring. But bro, imagine that. Bro, imagine Steph Curry could have my job, bro. I'm standing, bro. I would have did the same thing, bro. You not talking to Steph Curry like that. That's the light skinned man. You will not talk to Steph Curry like that. I will not allow it. Fuck you, bro. What? I probably would have got on Buddy. Man, what? Yeah, I'd have got fired today. I can't even care. I would have did the same thing. I understand. Trust me. I probably wouldn't have did his foundation shit, but I would have got on Buddy ass. Like, you not talking to the light skinned man like that. Stop it. Love me, like, comment, subscribe, bro. I want to see more reactions like this. Man, let me know in the comments. And I'm going to see y'all next, man. No cap.